After my third tour overseas, I returned home carrying more than just my gear. I carried the weight of years at war. I thought my family, my wife Lauren and our 2 children, were untouched by the chaos I'd endured. But when I stepped into our house, it was cold and silent. No excited kids running to greet me, no hug from Lauren, no welcome home sign. Just an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a message that cut deeper than any battlefield wound. I've met someone better. Someone who's here. I've filed for divorce. There was no warmth in her words. Just cold ink, legal threats, and the knowledge that she'd moved on while I was risking my life overseas. Weeks dragged by as court hearings began. My attorney, Alvarez, advised me to stay composed. They want a reaction, he warned. She's building a case that you're unstable, unreliable, too broken by war to be a father. And so, I stayed silent. I learned her new partner, a civilian contractor named Brent, had moved into my house days after I left for deployment. She was claiming full custody, ownership of the house, and spousal support. In court, she painted me as an absent father, incapable of giving our children a stable life. She smiled each time our paths crossed in the courtroom, mistaking my silence for defeat. But I wasn't staying quiet because I had nothing to say. I was waiting for the right moment. That moment came. The courtroom was full when the final hearing began. Lauren sat beside her lawyer, polished and confident. Brent watched from the back row, smug. Her legal team had come prepared with binders of accusations. I walked in with a single sheet of paper. The judge, a stern man with military service ribbons pinned to his robe, asked if I had anything to add. I stepped forward and placed the paper on his bench, face down. "Sir," I said calmly, "I respectfully submit this document for your eyes only. It pertains to an ongoing federal investigation involving my wife and her partner." The judge flipped it over and read just a few lines. His expression shifted instantly, surprise, disbelief, then sharp focus. He raised his hand to the bailiff. "No one leaves this room," he ordered. "Seal the courtroom." Then he looked at the MPs in the room. "Clear all non-essential personnel and call in military police." The atmosphere changed in an instant. Brent stood up, panicked. Lauren's face drained of color. Her lawyer looked stunned, dropped his paperwork, and backed away. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Grant, you are to be escorted to my chambers under protective detail. This court is now operating under federal advisement." In the judge's chambers, I sat silently as military police stood by. Judge Morleary entered, reading glasses perched on his nose, the document still clutched in his hand. "If what you've written is accurate," he said, voice tense but controlled, "we're not talking about divorce anymore. We're talking about serious crimes." I confirmed everything. The paper he held summarized months of investigation. Lauren and Brent had used my military credentials to gain access to defense contractor funds, laundering money through fake consulting jobs and kickbacks while I was stationed overseas. The very home she claimed in court was paid for using those illicit funds. She'd been trying to cut me out of my children's lives to shield herself from exposure, assuming I'd never discover the truth. I hadn't learned this on my own. A friend still serving stateside had flagged suspicious procurement activity tied to my ID. That tip had started a quiet collaboration with military investigators. I'd gathered evidence, saved records, and kept quiet while the net closed in. Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, the scene had unraveled. Lauren was detained, her boyfriend quietly escorted away by military police. Her lawyer packed his things and walked out without a word. Hours later, she was brought back in, no longer smug, no longer polished. She looked shattered. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen, her posture broken. The mask she'd worn for months had finally cracked. The truth had surfaced, and there was no hiding from it now. She trembled, stripped of the cold arrogance that once made her seem invincible. The courtroom was sealed tight. No media, no cameras, no crowd. Judge Morleary turned her stern gaze toward the woman who now sat opposite me, no longer a defiant wife wielding manipulation like a weapon, but an accused woman under serious suspicion. "Mrs. Grant," the judge began, voice firm as steel, "you are no longer here for custody or asset division. You are now under preliminary investigation for federal fraud, misappropriation of government resources, and obstruction of justice." Lauren opened her mouth, but her newly appointed public defender gently touched her shoulder, stopping her. Say nothing. That was when she looked at me for the first time, truly looked. Her lips parted slightly, a faint trace of something behind her eyes, regret, maybe guilt. But whatever it was, it had come too late. Then the testimony began. Until now, my children had been kept out of the courtroom drama. But the judge wanted their voices heard, especially after Child Protective Services submitted reports drawn from interviews with teachers and neighbors. My eldest, Evan, just 10 years old, was called to the stand. He fidgeted in his seat, clearly nervous. Do you feel safe with your mom? The judge asked in a gentle tone. Evan shook his head. She yells a lot, he said. And she let Brent say really mean things about my dad. The judge gave a slow nod. And how about your father? She continued. Evan's voice cracked as he answered. He was gone a lot, but he called me more than she did. He sent videos, birthday presents. He even recorded a bedtime story just for me. I felt my chest tighten at that memory, recording that video while a sandstorm howled outside our base in Kandahar. Evan turned to look at me. I want to live with Dad. The judge didn't ask anything else. That alone said everything he needed. A week later, the courtroom reconvened for the final decision. Lauren was there again, seated beside her defender. She looked pale and withdrawn. The expensive jewelry was gone, and her carefully maintained appearance had given way to a messy bun and hollow eyes. Brent was absent. He had already turned on her, trading information for a lighter sentence. His evidence sealed their fate. Judge Mollieri was direct. After reviewing the documents, financials, military findings, and testimony, he delivered his ruling. Full legal and physical custody of the children would go to me. The marital home and assets were awarded to me as well, having been acquired through fraudulent means. He then looked squarely at Lauren. You are being referred for prosecution at the federal level. He paused briefly. This court is adjourned, but justice continues. Outside, a large group had gathered. Not for Lauren. For the press conference I had called. Because I didn't just want the court to know the truth, I wanted everyone to. I gave the media the full, declassified dossier. Evidence of lies, financial deceit, and the betrayal of a combat veteran. The story exploded. Her name was everywhere, but not for anything she'd hoped for. Within a week, her employer cut ties publicly. Her professional credentials were revoked. A military support organization she once represented issued a scathing statement condemning her actions as a disgrace to all military families. Even her own parents stopped returning her calls. As for me, I took my kids and moved closer to my new unit in a quiet neighborhood. I launched a private security business with other veterans and, for the first time, lived life as more than just a soldier. I became the father I'd always wanted to be. One evening, Evan looked up at me and asked, Dad, are you happy now? I kissed his forehead and said, I am. Because no one gets to destroy our family and walk away without consequence. In the end, Lauren was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison and ordered to pay back what she stole. Though I never expected to see a cent. Brent disappeared under witness protection, disgraced and alone. But I rebuilt everything, my life, my family, my dignity. And I carried with me the quiet strength of knowing that truth, when finally unleashed, doesn't whisper. It roars.